Greetings and welcome to Unveiling Reality. I'm your host, Winning Reality. I hope you are living well. How's everybody doing this evening? Hope you're living well. Alexander, what's up? Let's say hello to those VIPs in the front row. Alexander, how you doing? Yo, 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 yo. T-Rex Trucking and more. Hola, hola. Cool Gamer. Hello, everybody. Hello, Cool Gamer. And Talking Trash and Truth. What's up? Saying hello to the crowd. Doing okay. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Man, the end of November already. What a ride it's been. Hello to everybody on Rumble and everybody over there on X. And all those people in the rewatch group. Thank you so much for rewatching. And tonight we're gonna have a great show. We're gonna go over a lot of material in terms of the Open Conspiracies series. This is episode 2 of Open Conspiracies, and these are the ones that are right in our faces that we need to be actually paying attention to. I realized today when I talking to a friend that some people think that the Great Reset didn't happen or isn't happening, and we're gonna learn a little different tonight. We're gonna really dive into that. Hey, Rose, how you doing? Welcome. Happy to have you here. There's a lot to know about this, and we're gonna be connecting some dots. And actually, this show is gonna actually kind of be almost like a two-parter because we're gonna tie in the first Open Conspiracies episode with oh yeah, it's definitely happening. It's still happening. In fact, a lot of people don't realize that it's an agenda that goes to 2030. So the Great Reset was just the starting of it. And I'm gonna get myself a nice little tag at the a Wikipedia tag on this video, I'm pretty sure, because all the content that I'm going to be we're going to be using to review these topics tonight, some great geopolitical minds, all have it on there. So I guess lucky me, I'll be getting one too. And the Wikipedia isn't too far off on it. I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna talk about it is very factually. But yeah, we're gonna be tying in our first episode with this, our second episode, into our third episode. So we're gonna be getting into like next week, we're gonna get into who really runs the world, like who is calling the shots. And we're also gonna be learning some things about what we can do to kind of like resist it, and also and what some other future plans they have for us. So there's some good news and some bad news that comes out of all these kind of investigations that I'm doing, and there is hope. That's the one thing that kind of separates this from the conspiracy theories, open conspiracies. There's hope to kind of divert this. It doesn't seem like it all the time, but there are ways that it is failing and struggling within itself. It's a very much more realistic look at the world in terms of what we're really facing. And there's some pretty sinister things. Don't get me wrong. There are some very sinister things that none of us are going to be comfortable with, but not so far out of reach that there's just no hope, right? And not so far out of reach that there's mass extinction plans and things of that nature that really just help us live in fear and stay in that second veil, right? We want to stay out of that second veil. We want to look beyond it and be in the fifth veil, the one that is set to hopefully tear down the other veil, so we live in a world that is more harmonious, peaceful, and easier to deal with. In fact, at least living in truth, right? Because right now we live in a world of deception, with a lot of different components that are operating at all times. So it's about getting that education and staying based. And we talk about being based. This is the based material right here. So it can keep us on a right footing to actually be part of the solution and not be caught up in being part of the problem. And that's the problem with the first and second veils. When you're living in those, under those veils or behind those veils, you're actually enabling the problem without even realizing it. Resistance in some ways, but without the complete picture, you can't get past those veils. You're kind of stuck in the mire there. But we on this show, we go further, right? We go further, we go beyond, and we get past the all the blockers so that we can have a clear picture of what the world is actually like and what's actually going on, what to focus our energies on, and where we're going to make a difference. And tonight, the idea of generational warfare is really going to ring true when you see the way that these guys operate, right? That you see that they have had a long-term plan and they are very comfortable in taking decades to implement, right? They have a very long-term plan. So we're going to take a look at that And it's really going to tie in next week when we actually see the players. We see like a lot of the players, some of the ones you don't wouldn't even realize are players, right? The cool part about it though is there's a way to actually track these people down, and we're going to start to develop a model of what to look for in leadership, right? For to go forward, the anti-establishment leadership, the non-globalist leadership, the leadership that's going to be more trustworthy and be part of the solution, hopefully going forward. And as we go along, hopefully more and more people that fit this mold that's beginning to develop here, these qualities will appear. But at least for us, the ones who takes time out of our week and dedicated to being part of the solution, at least for us, it'll be a much easier way for us to identify problem leadership, right? And people that are trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And so we're going to take a deep dive into the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Some people know them as Davos, so I added that in the title. But Davos is really just a place in Switzerland where they meet. That's why it's gotten that name, right? It's kind of like the Bilderberg for the Bilderberg Hotel. They got the name from the places that they meet, and they meet annually, and they review their agenda, and they then talk about their goals for the following year. So we're going to look at the origins of this group. We're going to look at Klaus Schwab, the leader of this group. And yep, there you go. He knows. The BlackRock is definitely part of the group. I hadn't seen the Rothschilds mentioned, but I was watching an interesting documentary, kind of a refresher documentary, because I've seen a lot of them on the Rothschilds, but refresher documentary on the history of the Rothschilds this week, done by a pretty smart dude. And going back over their rise to power, it was really interesting. I'll have to pull it up and we'll have to watch it sometime and talk about those guys. They still hold, I guess, a lot of influence, but going into the groups that are operating now and where they kind of are trying to take us, and who they are, and we're going to get into that with a nice presentation to start us out by this dude. You guys ever heard of the channel Valuetainment? This dude's awesome. I've been watching him for years. Patrick Bet David. This dude is smart. And he does a lot of great interviews. He's very direct. I like him. I like his style, and I've been watching him for years. I think he's great. So he's going to walk us in by letting us know about who Klaus Schwab is in the World Economic Forum, right? And what their whole deal is. He's very entertaining and he's fun to watch. Hey, Elephant, how you doing? You know some Rothschilds? Oh yeah. I know this story. Yeah, they actually started the whole system. I should pull the history up with that one time. We'll just do a deep dive on the history on the Rothschilds in the banking industry. It's very interesting, and for a lot of people who probably haven't heard it before, we'll get them caught up, Alexander, definitely, man. Alexander. Am I saying that right? I want to say Alexander because I see the Xander on there. EO Xander. Try to make sure I get the names right. Hey, Lady Autumn Scott, how you doing? All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Everybody hit that like button. Appreciate that too. And thumbs up over there on Rumble. And I don't know what they do on Twitter. Heart, heart and share, man, on Twitter, or X, I should say. Yeah, so we're going to start off this evening with a nice little run through of Klaus Schwab and the Economic Forum, the group that aims to control and shape global agendas. And where they kind of fit into the picture here. A lot of people would say these are the guys in charge, but I think we're going to find as we get through this episode, next episode, they're kind of an arm of the ones that are in charge. So I won't blow the ending for you, but through my research, I've come to find out that it's usually your first instincts. My first instincts about like what all this was about was pretty much on, but then you got to go through and you have to vet that. You have to make sure that you're right about it. And that's the important thing, right? So breaking it down, not getting into bias or any kind of like rabbit holes that are pulling you down into believing, there's something more to it than there actually is, because what it is in itself is enough. Is enough. I mean, it's enough. It really doesn't take much more than what they have already in place to do what they want to do, right? And that's basically just control the resources and control the planet and so on. So, and control us. Let's pull this back up. Yeah. Okay. We're going to get started here. Hope you guys are all ready. Yeah, AJ's kind of right. Kind of right. I'm not. I'm not an AJ hater. But you know, he can go a little too far sometimes. I try to reel it back. He goes a little bit too far sometimes, and I think that kind of takes away from his really his historic mind and his ability to actually piece things together. I hope in his latter years and maybe with new associations that he kind of like refines his approach some that he can be more listened to more so. I mean, I listened to him for like a long time. So I know all the ins and outs of AJ. In fact, if you go back to my early actually you can't really see it if you're not a member, you can't see it, but it's how we took on the crisis actor stage event narrative. The one that was kind of like I believe still to this day it was designed to kind of take him down. Um, but you know how he was getting hammered with that narrative and buying into it, and how me and my group were trying to stop it, and it was like we were trying to get through to him, but he was so big we couldn't reach him to even get through to tell him, hey, you're being set up. That's a long story, and I have a whole video on that in my member section. Exclusively there because I think I keep it there because it was like my first live and it was so it's just, you know, it's not up to the quality I have today, so I kinda keep it hidden. I could re-roll that one day and kind of, like, re-explain it, but, you know, I think I keep it there for quality's sake and just to have an exclusive video that's in there for the members only to see. One of the first lives ever from Winning Reality. Yes, yes, indeed. Alright, let's get this guy up here, and let's get rolling. I think I'm gonna use this setup tonight. Yeah, that's the one I wanted. Is there another one I had kinda like this one? Yeah, maybe I'll go with this one. Let's do this one. All right, here we go.
Why do so few people trust Klaus Schwab and World Economic Forum? Like, why is it that they're in every single conversation of people? These guys want to control you. They want to make decisions for you. They want you to eat insects. There's no way they said you got to eat insects. They would never say such a thing. They would never say you shouldn't eat meat or, you know, U.S. will no longer be a superpower. Why would they say such a thing? U.S. pays into World Economic Forum. So we decided to investigate it. We realized this man, Klaus Schwab, is actually a modern day Nostradamus. He knows how to predict crisis from happening. He's got that kind of gift. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how much money they've raised, their expenses on an annual basis. You'll see who was invited to be a young.
You want closed caption? Sure, I can do that. I never thought about that. Let's do that. Which language would you like? Any particular language? Yeah, right. I know. Who wants to eat bugs, man? They're just nuts. They're saying they're gonna make it healthy. We talked about the farming of all that too. Like when oh yeah, absolutely. I don't mind doing that on. Thanks for bringing that up. Actually, I thought about doing that in the past, Ellie, and I just hadn't, you know, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to put that on there, doesn't it? I see Joe does that too. Yeah, we were talking about like the farming, the mass farming of insects that would go on, and it would and like what kind of like insect diseases would spawn out of that, you know, with like close quarters of so many insects crawling all over each other and just like massive swarms and not in their natural environment under lights and being fed probably some kind of GMO crap. Who knows, man? But yeah, they would be mass farming these insects, so I wouldn't trust anything coming out of there. Plus, we should have the freedom to eat what we want.
Young global leader, 3 names. Wait till you see what Tulsi, Musk, and Vivek said to World Economic Forum. We'll cover that as well, and a bunch of other things. Having said that, stay tuned. We're going to study World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab in this episode. So give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you get value out of this video.
Oh yeah, he's all about that.
Klaus Schwab founded World Economic Forum in 1971 as a not-for-profit foundation. It is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It was originally called the European Management Forum, and initially his focus was in the meetings on how European firms could catch up with the U.S. management practices. This is their mission statement: engage business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. Mission is committed to improve the state of the world. So far, sounds pretty good. They made a prediction on what they think is going to happen in 2030, 8 of them, which I think it's important for you to know. Here's some of the predictions. Number 1, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. By the way, this is from their website. This is a video they produced. Number 2, the U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. Instead, a handful of countries will dominate. Number 3, you won't die waiting for an organ donor. Instead, we won't transplant organs. We'll print new ones. Very interesting. Number 4.
Right. Print new or we'll just print new ones. We'll print new organs. It's okay. Actually, yeah, Bear owns Monsanto. We did a whole thing on Monsanto called Seeds of Death. Alexander, I have another. We have another show on Sundays. It's called Old School Watch Party Sundays, where we review a lot of the old documentaries. We did Endgame, by the way, since you like Alex Jones. We did that, but we do a lot of them. We take another analysis, like we go back into the past and do a new analysis on some of them. Some of them in a tournament and turn into debunking sessions, but a lot of them, like the food and water ones, were just straight out information, and we were kind of just like reawakening those causes and those that knowledge, because a lot of it I noticed had been buried. But when it came to food, and bug food was one at the end of that. So I'm sure Talking Trash to Choose will throw up the link to that playlist. But we have I think we've done 10 episodes now. We've done like I counted it. We have 10 episodes now. And now we've turned it into like a double feature where we watch a documentary and then we watch a movie. So, and usually the movie is like a comedy that has to do with something with the topic. I try to get them really close. This week we're going to do Consuming Kids, which is about marketing to kids. It's called Consumerizing Childhood, that's one that V Radio brought up this week. So I remembered it. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that. We should watch that. And then we're going to watch PCU, which is Politically Correct University. After that, it's a comedy. It's hilarious. So I hope you guys will join us for that. It's 8:30 Eastern on Sundays. Okay, back to the program here.
4, you'll eat much less meat. If you like meat, you're kind of screwed here. Number 5, 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Sounds very noble, but who knows what that means? If the world's only going to be ran by 5 countries, there's not a superpower. So can they just choose to say this 10 million will be moving to your state? This 8 million is going here. They get to choose that if that's what integration means. Number 6, polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will
Did you hear that? Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. Every human emits carbon dioxide. We're all polluters, all of us. Don't you love when they come up with this stuff? These are the guys that are running the world. Yeah, this is what they're saying. I mean, supposedly, quote unquote, running the world. We're going to find out that their power is all about consent. But how do they go about getting that consent? And how do they go about furthering their agenda? Very, very, very tricky. And we'll be getting that later in the show. Yeah, we're going to be probably addressing the whole climate bullshit, change bullshit here in future episodes shortly, because it's going to come up a lot with these global topics that we're covering right now, these open conspiracies. So we'll be heading over into that direction sooner than later.
Help make fossil fuels history. Number 7, you could be preparing to go to Mars. Oh my God.
They just throw that number 7 in there, right? They just throw that number 7. Oh, you could be preparing to go to Mars. What does that even mean?
Can you imagine how they're trying to sell the people around the world? Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space.
This is hilarious.
Science will work out how to keep you healthy in space. The start of a journey to find alien life. Number 8, Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. How do you feel right now? Are you like watching this thing? There's no way.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, throw my Discord link, and we'll meet up, dude. Let's definitely do that.
Oh, this is true. Let me go Google this myself. Go ahead and do it. Pause the video, check it for yourself, and then come back and you'll see this is what they're telling you. If they're selling you a dream, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to live this life. Well, then follow whatever they're telling you. But if this is a nightmare type of a situation coming from their mouth to you, you may want to investigate these guys before we see them as experts and honorable leaders, and we subscribe to whatever they tell us to do. Now.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Thomas. Yeah, I hear you on that. The whole idea that it's fossil fuel is kind of been debunked too, hasn't it? It's not really fossil, is it? Like we all imagine this is a bunch of dinosaur bones that are turned into oil and whatnot, but it's really not. And that they sell the idea that because fossils will eventually run out, right? So you've got the idea in your head that these old fossils are going to eventually not be there. And when it's like it's starting to be proven that stuff regenerates itself. So we'll get into more of that when we cover the climate. I call it green lighting, like gaslighting. The link here for Discord. Yeah. Did it not pop up? Hold on. I think Shelly's grabbing it. Shelly will grab it. She'll get it in there. Um, they're selling BS. I'm not buying out. That's the thing, though. The way that they sell it is going to be the trick here, and when we get to that part. But let's continue.
Here's their objectives. I'm going to read to you from their website. You stay tuned. Let me just read it to you. It's not going to sound real, but let me read it to you. So look, I've been in the financial industry since 9/11, the day before 9/11, and I've owned stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, crypto. I send you, and they'll send you up to 5,000. Globalism net zero, reimagining capitalism. This
Globalism net zero, reimagining capitalism. Now, whenever you hear the word reimagining, now that should send up the biggest red flag that you have. That's the worst. That's the worst. Reimagining it, right? Reimaging it in your mind is what they're really saying, right? Yes, I did hear about the mandating kill switches. I did hear about those. Again, it's just one thing after another, right? It's one thing after another. And that's what happens when you have corruption in the system just allowed to flourish and run forward and not be obstructed. That's what we're trying to work on here is how to remove the enablement for that kind of the kind of leadership that would allow such violations of rights.
This is being said by people who have never ran a business before. Klaus Schwab is not a businessman. He pays himself $1 million a year, but he's not a businessman. He's hurting small businesses like you and I who run businesses. He's not a fan of you. He wants to control you because he thinks he knows what's best for you.
Yeah, and isn't that always the case? These people, these wealthy elites, that they think that they know what's best for us. They, even though they don't have the expertise, it's like this. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect on steroids with those guys, right? You got Bill Gates, who thinks he's a scientist and thinks he knows the climate, along with that little girl who screams about everything. What's her name? How dare you? The how dare you girl. Like, she's so insignificant in my mind. I don't even like recall her name when I need to. You know, you have other people like, yeah, Bill Gates thinks he's the jab expert, right? He thinks he's some kind of like virologist now. He also thinks he's a food expert too. He's a computer nerd who knows how to, barely a computer nerd at that, who can just talk the talk and swing deals and knows how to, you know, throw his money around. That's pretty much it. But these people all of a sudden rise to the top and are supposed to become our leaders. We got poor leadership if these guys are the ones to call the shots, right? What's up, Jacob Castro over there on Rumble? I see you. How you doing, buddy?
Slowing population growth. They're not saying
slowing population growth. They're already kind of working on that, huh?
Depopulation. It's more like saying slowing population growth. It's a little bit more gentle. And you've all
right. So the depopulation, slow populations, it's half a dozen one way, you know, 6 the other. But at the same time, it's not the old, okay, we're just going to wipe people out. That's the fear mongering aspect of that, right? But it is a slow generational plan that, like we talk about a lot here, is, and we reiterate a lot, is that it's always a generational plan. So we have to think generationally too. How do we stop it? We have to stop it generationally. We are the ones who light the fire, and then our children and their children keep the fire going and grow it until we can flip the scales and really get a true tipping point. So you don't know winning. Gates wants global depopulation by any means necessary. His father was one. Yeah, I don't know that necessarily translates in terms of that. I think that what they want to do and depopulation, as in, yeah, slowly whittle down the population. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's half a dozen one way, 6 the other. But yeah, I know his father was in Planned Parenthood, but I try not to draw this kind of like that. I don't say, okay, because somebody's parents were one way, you know, then that means their kids are going to be that way, right? I just won't give into that kind of like connection, even though that's the truth, right? And without a founder, person involved in eugenics, I've heard all these stories. We can dive into Gates one day if we really want to, but he's kind of just this dude, right? And he'll probably end up taking himself out of the whole Epstein thing. Who knows? I don't know, but we'll see. But I don't think that means he's automatically kind of going to be like, I need to take out half the population, right? They'll do it over time. That's the whole, like, okay, you're waiting, you're sitting on the edge of your seat. You're thinking any moment now they're going to unleash something, and then you're going to wake up in this dystopia, right? That's the fear that'll keep people paralyzed and paranoid and keep them from coming together. The truth of the matter is they already have agendas. This is the point of this show tonight. They already have these agendas that are in our face that do the job that people are talking about. Like one man, one Gates. He's nobody really in terms of the elitists, right? He's nobody. He's not like they're all like, Bill, what do we do? You're going to see as we go along who's really in charge here and how they run it. It's not as individualistic, I would say, as people would imagine. Right. It's like that's kind of you're getting into the second veil thought line of thinking when you're thinking, okay, it's very individualistic. Like who's going to tell one of these guys what to do? Right. They have to more like it more has to be like more. It's more of an organized kind of walk into the manufacturing of consent. And they have to work it through a generational process. Like is Bill Gates telling George Soros what to do, or Soros telling Gates what to do? How about Rockefeller? How about Rockefeller? You have all these people that are involved, right? And they're all got egos, and they all got money, and they all think that they got something. So they're all kind of just playing a part of this thing called elitism, right? They're all just kind of playing their roles, and there's no one person that is individually that is just calling the shots to just do what they want to do because people can't tell them what to do. Kind of like Trump. Trump has enough money that people can't really tell him what to do. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you've heard this whole thing and you can go to some other channels and see them play the little meme from Facebook from back in the early 2000s, right? When he's talking on the TED Talk. Well, they cut out the part in that meme, right? Where he explains what he means about that. Like when he talks about how we're going to get these, if we get vax right, then, then we can blow the population. But what he's talking about is the fact that people in third world countries have a bunch of kids because they're used to their kids dying off. So he's saying in his mind that if you can get them, their health better, and his idea of doing that is through the vaccine, right? And then they will naturally start having less kids because they won't feel like their kids are gonna die off right away from diseases. That's what he meant when he said that. But then you have people who take that and run with it and be like, "That's gonna be this, it's gonna be that," right? And then that's the fear mongering. So they play this meme over and over again, and people start to believe it after a while. I think this is people that want to control everything. They're control freaks. And they end up getting involved in all these big controllable resource things, whether it be healthcare, food, whatever. They want to control everything, right? There's a lot of money to be made in control, and it's a lot of power to be gained from it. And so as we'll see as we go along, it's a little less complicated and a little more complex, if that makes sense, right? It's really explain to me. Agenda 201 Gates was the one speaking at Hopkins. I don't know. I have to look that up. Agenda 21. Agenda 201. I'll have to look into that. It's not. I'll make a note of that, Ellie, and I'll take a look at it. But I don't have it on the docket for tonight. But let's get rolling with this. We got lots to go through, and we got a whole nother thing coming up too. Let's see. Yeah, it's a working machine. They all work together. Right. It's like it's little pieces, that little cogs, right? But they're following the bigger agenda. And who puts the bigger agenda out there, and why is it there? That's the questions we need to ask in order to get to the bottom of this get to the bottom of this here thing. Yeah, we did Agenda 21 last time on this series. So it was like 2 shows ago. I did Agenda 21 and sustainable development and all that shit. Yeah, it's all in there. But I'll dig deeper into that. I'll help answer those questions.
Harari, who is their number 2 guy at World Economic Forum, said the following about you. Humans are now hackable animals. Are you a hackable animal? That's what the number 2 guy at World Economic Forum thinks about you and me. How do you feel about that? Isn't this exciting? Like we're learning about an organization that you're just excited about, right? So how does this thing operate? What do they do?
Was echoing
this organization meets annually in Davos, Switzerland. It convenes regional summits, industry summits, and other events around the world. Their revenue streams is funded through world's most significant business entities who join the forum as members and partners in order to participate. Approximately 1,000 corporations hold memberships in World Economic Forum, including Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and many others, which we'll take a look at.
Okay, so there you go. Think about this. This is how you become part of this group, right? There's over 1,000 corporations that are part of this group. Hey, Crown, how's it going? I see you over there. Crown says we are already slowly boiling. If you choose to sleep, it will only get hotter. That's true. That's true. Welcome, dude. All right. Yeah. So, there you go. Thomas has that. So yeah, so 1,000 core, and it's funny because like as he runs down this list, I'm like, oh, I've worked for that one. Oh, I've worked for that one. But it's a techie risk for you roll through, consultancies and whatnot. You roll to different places. You have different clients at different times. But yeah, so the membership and partnership fees vary from 60,000 to almost over $500,000 annually. So this is how they're getting funding, right? Corporations are funding these guys. So they have a revenue stream. This is the revenue stream coming in. So that's why I like this guy. He breaks things down so nicely.
Membership and partnership fees varies from $60,000 annually to $595,000 annually, according to Bloomberg. And in 2022, there were approximately 2,000 delegates, including Al Gore, John Kerry, Christine Lagarde, Jen Stoltenberg, Ursula von der Leyen, Henry Kissinger, George Soros, and many other high-profile names.
So there's a delegate for this whole Klaus Schwab in them, and there's Soros on the list, right? Kissinger, Kerry, Gore, American politicians. So yeah, no wonder when we allow corruption to fester and we allow people to live behind these veils, that people like this are able to succeed, right? Hey, Jacob Peets, how you doing? We could all agree to stop using the frogs in the pot metaphor. The frogs were lobotomized. We are functional thinking. Okay, Jacob. I don't know. I still like the idea of that, but here we go.
You may be curious about the financial statement, what kind of money they're making, what kind of money they're paying out. This is what it looks like. In the last 6 years, in 2017, they had total expenses of $278 million, of which they paid $108 million to staff and $170 million to office and activity. And that led all the way down to today, 2022, $383 million in expenses, $130 million to staff, $252 million to office and activity. 383.
That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Think about that. I mean, if one annual membership for a large corporation like Amazon or whatever is over $500,000, they cover it on one membership. They cover their expenses on one membership, and they have thousands that are paying them this annual fee. You wonder how these guys stay wealthy, right? There you go.
It's a good number, what they're spending every year, and they're able to get a lot of money from a lot of big names. I'll read you some of the companies right now, but you may ask, why are companies partnering with World Economic Forum? Here's what McKinsey said on what the benefits are to join World Economic Forum. WF partners with many international organizations and corporations to run projects addressing global concerns. This year, collaborations are focused on pursuing a net zero pathway, nurturing resilience, reimagining globalization, and supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is DEI, in every part of society. Do you see some touches of ESG in there? I kind of read that the DEI equals ESG, CEI, Corporate Equity Index score, all that stuff. That's kind of what you're hearing from one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, McKinsey. Now, if you're wondering what other companies are part of, let's read through some of the lists here that you may know. Accenture, AIG, Alibaba, Allianz, Amazon, Bain & Company, Bank of America, Barclays, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, BlackRock.
There you go. There's BlackRock and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all part of this in there with George Soros. So yeah, the whole gang's here, right?
Boston Consulting Group, BP, Bridgewater Associates, Chevron, Cisco, Citi, the Coca-Cola Company, Dell Technologies, Deloitte, Deutsche Bank, DHL Group, EY, which is Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, Google, Hewlett-Packard, HP, HSBC, Huawei, IBM, Intel, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan & Chase, KPMG, Lazard, MasterCard, McKinsey & Company, Meta, Microsoft, Mitsubishi, Morgan Stanley, Nestle, Open Society Foundation, George Soros, Palantir, PayPal, PepsiCo, Pfizer, PwC, Procter & Gamble, Qualcomm, Royal Philips, Salesforce, Sequoia Capital, Siemens, Sony, S&P Global, Swiss Re, Uber Technologies, UBS, Verizon, Visa, Volkswagen, Volvo, Zurich Insurance Group. See how many different industries, massive companies, multi-billion-dollar behemoth companies are members, and they're coming together. What's the whole purpose of this? It's a globalism to control what the smaller people don't get to do. They make the decision that's best for you. Kind of gets you thinking a little bit, right? Makes you want to be a little bit skeptical. But let's go a little bit deeper. What are some of the initiatives? The first one, which is kind of interesting. Remember earlier I said Nostradamus? Check this out. The Great Reset. You want to know what book Klaus Schwab wrote and when? Here's a question for you. I'm right now about to launch my business book that's going to come out here soon called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Do you know how long we've been working on this book? A little over 2 years. How long do you think it takes to write your book, publish it, release it to people? Even if you're fast, what would you say? A year? 18 months? Maybe you're super fast. It's what? 6 months. Why?
Yeah, that'd be Gosney fast right there.
Watch the book this guy wrote. The book's title is COVID-19, The Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab. Ready for the release date? July 2020. Do you know when COVID shut down America and it was a mess, NHL, NBA, all that stuff? Mid-March. You either wrote the book, published the book, drafted the book, printed the book in 3-4 months, or you kind of timed it very well. How did you know?
All right, so I'm gonna throw out another theory here. He was right. I'm just so that you know, I'm not saying that he didn't see this opportunity and then write it, but he was already writing the book, and then that happened, and then he added to it and changed the title. Like that could have been another possibility. So I'm just throwing out. I'm not saying this isn't, you know, definitely not covering or anything like that, but I'm just saying that, you know, just to keep our minds open. And remember, we want to know the truth rather than be right around here. And that you know, that's another possibility he didn't quite list. Yeah, he could have already been writing this whole reset plan, and then you know, notice how they stopped calling it Build Back Better all of a sudden, because that was what it was before, and it wasn't just old diapers Joe, you know, the hair sniffer out there talking about it on his campaign run, which was 2020 by the way, but it was also going around in Europe before that. So it was he, like he did everything, he plagiarized it. So it could have been that. So you don't hear much about the Build Back Better thing anymore, not that much. It's kind of, if anything, it's been swept under the rug for this other thing, but we'll see. I could be missing a little bit on that one.
See what I'm saying? Kind of makes you think, don't it? Am I the only crazy one, or are you kind of processing that as well? So when people say the timing's a little off, you got to give those people a little bit of credibility for questioning the timing. What a perfect timing of a book. Watch how he speaks when he's talking about this great reset. You ready? Tell me if this sounds like a welcoming language. Just tell me, you know how people talk to you, welcoming language? Tell me what this sounds like. Every country from the United States to China must participate. Not shall, not ought to, must participate in every industry, from oil and gas to tech, must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. Who are you to know what we need from a man who's never ran a business before?
Exactly. Right? They sit there from a position of manufactured authority. He has no right to be telling us what to do and how to reset capitalism. Like he's like some divine force that came down. Reset capitalism. What does that even mean? Like, I almost started this show tonight. Hey, Crown, welcome over to the side. I almost started this. I really wanted to either like take a week and do double speak and talk about double speak, because man, and Jacob, man, you'll love this topic, man. We're gonna get into this. But man, it's so much in news, and there's from the macro to the micro, right? So the micro to some dude I know that's sitting out there and is on his channel talking a bunch of double speak to get around the fact that he's a bad person, right? And has done some terrible things, to the World Economic Forum leader, right? This double speak that goes on is a topic we need to cover and we need to readdress ourselves on. So I almost started out tonight's show by doing double speak, but I had so much material to get through that I was like, I can't quite do it yet. So it's going to be coming up. I think what we'll do is we'll get through this, and then we'll talk about double speak as a reinforcement to what we've kind of gotten through. Not on this show, but in shows coming up. That'll give us another thing to talk about. But double speak, we'll get into control of language. Double speak is huge in this area. We really need to get down to the basis of that and understanding how it's done and how to detect it and how to call it out.
All you do is raise money, getting Europe to compete against US because US was your enemy. Somehow you fooled US to come and join WF. Now we must do what you want us to do. Since when does the world run this way? But wait for this. Famous line. You'll own nothing and be happy. Do you own anything? Are you happy? Do you live in a house you own? Is this your phone? Are you wearing the clothes you own? Do you like owning stuff that's yours, that you worked hard for? Well, according to him, You ain't going to own none of that stuff, but you're still going to be very happy. Number 2 is another book that he wrote. He called it The Fourth Industrial Revolution. In this book, he describes the convergence of digital, biological, and physical innovations. It encompasses advances such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, predictive healthcare, and digital identities, focused on societal implications of these rapid technological changes. And the 4 revolutions he talks about is the first one is 1784, steam, water, mechanical production equipment, 1870 is the second one, division of labor, electricity, and mass production, 1969, electronics, IT, automated production, and cyber physical systems. And the third one, stakeholder capitalism, which is one of his favorites, by the way. Stakeholder.
Keep that terminology in mind. It comes up a lot. Stakeholder capitalism. Pay attention to this.
Capitalism is a system which corporations are oriented to serve the interests of all their stakeholders. Sounds noble, okay? Among the key stakeholders are customers, suppliers, employees, shareholders, and local communities. Again, sounds noble if it's by choice, not by force. Under this system, a company's purpose is to create long-term value and not to maximize profits and enhance shareholder value at the cost of other stakeholders. This is how companies go out of business. And last but not least, World Economic Forum has been a proponent of this model, emphasizing a move away from the short-term shareholder value to long-term sustainable growth and responsibility. Once again, if he knew how to do this, why didn't you start your own company and do this yourself? Why force others to do something that you've never done before? You've never started a company. These are valid questions to ask, which I would love to meet Klaus Schwab and do an interview with him to ask these respectful questions that many others have for someone like Klaus. And number 4 is Young Global Leaders Program, which he launched.
Okay, so you see he has pillars, right? So he has different pillars that he's raising up for his agenda. This agenda that, you know, obviously him and others are crafting. They're putting together, right? This is a key thing right here. This is a key thing. You wonder how they get it done? Listen up to this.
In 2004, it seeks to identify and nurture the next generation of leaders, recognizes individuals under 40 for their professional accomplishments, commitment to society, and potential to contribute to shaping the future. 1,400 members, alumni of 120 nationalities, includes civic and business innovators, entrepreneurs, technology pioneers, educators, activists, artists, journalists, and many more. This list includes, and I'm going to read some more names for you. Are you ready? Putin's one, Trudeau's another one, Merkel, Macron, Newsom, Yarden, and many others. And by the way, they divided by different industries. Let me read you some other names that you may know. Pete Buttigieg, Chelsea Clinton. I know her husband is a...
You see Newsom in there? Right? So what if he gets switched in for Biden, right? They're going to... Who do you think is going to come out and be calling him out for being part of this group? You think that's going to be talked about in the mainstream or anywhere? You think anybody's going to either understand what that means, that he's part of this group, one of the identified and of global leadership? See, they're thinking ahead. This is the generational warfare right here. It's just, you know, you're seeing it as these people have been identified. You're going to see this is a very big list of people, very big list.
Is a friend, okay, a friendly podcast guest we've had before, Nikki Haley. Adam Kinzinger, Jonathan Soros, son of...
Nikki Haley is one of these people. Nikki Haley, right?
George Soros, Lawrence...
And who's she attacking? Who's she going after? Trump, right? The anti-establishment candidate.
Summers, Paul Krugman. In the media space, Fareed Zakaria, Anderson Cooper, Sanjay Gupta, Andrew Ross Sorkin, Thomas Friedman, George Stephanopoulos, Lachlan Murdoch, Maria Bartiromo. Now here's for technology and social media. Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Bezos, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Eric Schmidt, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg. From Great Britain, Tony...
All these people sound familiar? They've been in front of our faces the whole time, right? But people don't understand how they all tie in together. This is how they all tie in together.
Blair, Niall Ferguson, Charles Allen. Remember how I told you Tulsi, Musk, and Vivek? All 3 were nominated, but they said, not interested. We're okay. You don't...
Vivek said no. He said no. That's why he is on the side he's on. That's why he speaks the way he speaks. He goes, I'm not going to be part of this, but he's got the knowledge. That's what's starting to make him shape up as a model candidate of the future, model leadership of the future, right? This is what happens. They go and they find people that have what it takes to do what they want, right? And some people can walk away from it.
Need to recognize us. Thank you, but thank you. So again, you pick and choose. You may be watching the same. I want to get nominated for this. Great, you can go get nominated for this guy. But you may say, I don't really want to get nominated. Well, here's what some people who said good things about him said, and here's what some people said bad things about World Economic Forum. Let me read both of them to you. Number one, Al Gore, boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees.
Yeah, everybody's supposed to forget that he already put it to the end of the world and it didn't come. Real quick, now there's a difference between offering a Neuralink and wanting to chip our brains, right? I think when it comes to Musk, we have to make some considerations. He is resisting in big time ways. Is he part of this? No. You have to judge a man by his enemies. And also, did he say he wants to, or that he's putting in the technology he can? A lot of the Neuralink technology is, there's some some neat stuff in there, but there's also a lot that has to do with health. So there's a lot of health. Like I've talked about this before. In fact, I talked about it a lot on my one of the old shows I did called Tech Reality Tuesdays with Space Power Monkey. We talked about how they would integrate things like this through healthcare, right? Through health. This idea that people can live better lives who couldn't hear before or couldn't see before, or that had been damaged in some way, that technology could somehow come through and give them a better quality of life, was going to override our fears of like, okay, everybody's gonna be chipped from birth, and the Black Mirror kind of perceptive. And then we go watch Black Mirror in the Discord and get all freaked out. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But the idea is I keep an open mind, and there's the technology is just what the technology is. It can be used for good or bad. I personally don't think that Elon Musk wants to chip our brains. I think he may offer the technology to people who choose to, right? But I think that if other people may do it too that have more nefarious plans. So if he's the one who's got his hands on it, maybe that's a better thing, because it's probably going to come out. It's probably going to happen anyways. Yeah, and I would say Donald Trump, who expedited the vaccines, based on the advice of some very bad subject matter experts, right? He had some very bad people around him that were trying to undermine what he was doing. Not his greatest moment, but still, judge a man by his enemies. The entire establishment's after him. I feel pretty safe with him going back, because the last thing we want is the neocons to take it back over the right. I've said this many times on the show too. So you don't want the neocons back in charge and putting the false left-right paradigm back in. Think about that one. Like, he's the one thing that stands between that and the Ron Paul revolution. We were trying so hard to get that wrangle the control of the party out of the neocons and the rhinos' hands. And finally, Trump was able to do that. That was one of his biggest accomplishments. And I say, if for any reason he should get the nomination and run again, for that reason, to keep those guys from ever getting back in. And maybe if we do get them back in, 4 years is 4 years, and then maybe we can get a Vivek or somebody like him, that this new anti-establishment model of candidate, right, that we're going to be talking about in future weeks to come here, as we kind of put the pieces together. What makes the ideal candidate for the anti-establishment moving forward? Something we've never really kind of addressed as the anti-establishment before, but we need to have kind of like start to recognize what the model is and get that model out to people, so that we all have that frame of reference when we go to look into candidates, when we go to nominate candidates, and maybe become candidates. Some of us, right? You never know. There's some smart people in this room that could do it. But I think we try to kind of like walk in a lot of this stuff, and maybe just take our time picking it apart, and not kind of jump into connect this to connect that, and then just draw a quick conclusion, because a lot of times there's some nuance to it that changes the perspective. So we got time to dig into all of it.
It's kind of like, is that an encouraging message? If you listen to this, you almost want to go to space to leave Earth. Don't just like end of the world here. And that's positive to say good things about World Economic Forum. But let me give you some of the other side. Here's what Ron DeSantis said. The elites in the Davos World Economic Forum want to run everything and turn everybody else on the planet into a serf or peasant. Tucker said the World Economic Forum seems to exist to destroy national economies. Musk rips World Economic Forum unelected world government.
There you go. Unelected. He's against unelected world government. Okay, he has electric cards. It's a business, right? And working with China, Do you have to? Should he shut off China? Would he shut off China? Would he stop working with China? They have all the electronics over there. They kind of have a little bit of a monopoly on that right now, don't they? So maybe wrangling some of that away through different relations. And the other thing too is China doesn't always have to be run by the Communist Party. Like it can go through its own revolution. It can change and become a better place one day. You know, so it's just a matter. There's people there that are good people there that live there. They're just living under a tyrannical government. So I don't know the ins and outs of China. So that's why I don't kind of jump to these big conclusions about things. Well, big conclusion A, big conclusion B, then that must mean C, right? Because that's how you get stuck in these kind of like, we need to find a way to kind of really dig into the nuances of things. So that's what we try to do here. So we kind of keep an open mind and we kind of keep moving forward. But yeah, so here you go. No, he doesn't like world government. That's a plus, right?
Government. And I'll read this one to you for somebody from the Labor Party, Swiss Labor Party, liberal, left, progressive, like an Antifa of Swiss. Here's what Alexander Anlin had to say about this. The main yearly meeting of CEOs of transnational corporations and bourgeoisie politicians from leading capitalist countries who discuss without any democratic legitimacy nor any control from the people questions that concern everyone. The countries of the global south have nothing to say about decisions that will harm them. This kind of forum shows the fundamentally anti-democratic, oligarchic nature of our system. The protection of the environment is also a major discussion in World Economic Forum. However, every year, 1,000 private jets fly to Davos, which is equal to the pollution emitted by 300,000 cars altogether. Man, they really care about this climate change stuff and protecting it for you and I. So how excited are you right now? Are you still saying, well, Pat, this is a little crazy. Come on, man. You guys are overselling it. No problem. You ever had insects? Have you ever eaten?
Okay, I'm getting to bug food here real quick. Okay, Churchill, though, was part of the New World Order is now the post-war order. Like, if you realize that Churchill, they're going to mention this later on. We get into part 2, but Churchill, that what they call it now. The New World Order. It's always just been the new order of things. It's not what we're looking at right here, right? It's just a terminology. It's a big idea, right? If you listen to what everybody said, they always say it's a big idea. The idea is the order of the world. Now, a lot of people have taken this word, and I've talked about this on other episodes in the past, as we've walked towards this point. So I realize we're kind of catching up a little bit here, but it's not an organization, right? It's an idea. It's the order of things. Like, who are the superpowers? That's the world order. Now, a new world order would indicate that order is changing. And I know that Jones and others have used this term in such a way that's made people imagine that it's a real functioning structure. And they've had the memes with the soldiers with the NWO on their arms, or there's gonna be some new world order army. No, the real army is right in front of us. We're looking at it tonight. We're gonna be looking at it tonight and next week. It's that's what I'm saying, that you don't have to go to the extreme of a new world order run by the Illuminati and interdimensional beings or whatever talking to them. You can go to the reality of what's out there and look at these open agendas, these open conspiracies, and see the real beast. The real beast is right there in front of us. They don't really hide it, But the idea of this whole, they call it the post world order now. It's like everything that came out of World War II is the new world order at that time. We all learned about this in history class. It was like the superpowers changed. The United States rose to the top. It became part of the new order of the world. Now that's who is the superpowers. That's what that means. But we've taken it to extremes. So when someone was talking about like Bush, and then we're talking about the new world order, they were talking about the new order of the world as China was rising, right? That's what they were talking about. But again, things get taken out of context and we start living in the second veil, right? We're behind the second veil now in a conspiracy theory land, and we end up not living in fear and not knowing what to do. This show, what I do with this show and this channel is I try to push through the veils, right? And explain and debunk the theories and get to the real conspiracies that are going here and what that is. And I think I got to take 1 second here, guys, because I appreciate Alexander's participation tonight, and I want to give him a quick rundown of the board. So I'm gonna have to do this. Real quick, just so he understands what we're about here. I'll do the real fast version of this, but this is the board that we work off of. All right. This is the one that I developed and I've been putting out here for a while. Let me go ahead and get this on a bigger scale for you. All right. So this is the way it works, right? You're born into this world, innocent, love, and light, right? and you kind of go through these veils as you get older. A lot of people stay here in the first veil, and you know the first veil really well, right? That's the establishment narrative. That's the one that has all this stuff that you're born into, the government politics, the public school system, right? The and all these isms that pop up that try to guide your life and shape you into being a nice little part of this establishment narrative, right? And the idea here is that that you subvert the young and you can change the culture at any point you want to, right? So you do. It's a generational warfare. It's generational, and some people like you and me, like we can't we see through these lies from the mainstream media, establishment media. We see through BS of these isms. We're like, this stuff doesn't make any sense. It's dividing people. We don't want to be part of it, right? So we start to move away from that. But if you believe that they can do all this, right, you have to understand that they've already constructed this other alternative narrative that's out there. And this is the conspiracy theory realm. So if you notice that when you turn your back on the establishment media and establishment narrative, that there's all this information that's waiting for you, right? And all these rabbit holes waiting for you to suck you in and tell you that this is the way things work, right? And the idea is that people go through these rabbit holes and they learn all this stuff they believe is truth, right? And there's sprinkled truth all throughout the first and second veil. They sprinkle the truth in, but they guide you in a direction they want you to go. It's ideological subversion, and this is the counteract the people who get out of this bucket right here. So this bucket right here is waiting for you, and you fall into these rabbit holes, right? And then you become discredited, or you become basically to the point where you're living in fear. You're staying on defense. You have no. This group has no solutions. They have no solutions, right? Because they only know what they've been told about this. Whether you fall into the UFO rabbit hole or the whole Illuminati New World Order rabbit hole, right? These don't offer any solutions. They only offer fear. And see, in order for us to ever come together and to beat the bad guys, we have to understand what's beyond these two veils. And so we get into this idea that they have this mechanism that continually, generationally corrupts our society and keeps this division going, this manufactured division going, right? And that's through the control of language, but it's also through the control of the narratives, right? The establishment narrative and the alternative narrative, done through COINTELPRO, disinformation, censorship, and so on, right? All these things are created. A lot of these people out here that have been telling you to believe these things that are right here on this list and other ones are just grifters, right? A lot of these people that are out there that have been doing it, they're part of cults, secret societies, or they're actually fed informants, right? They actually have databases to suck people into these things, but they actually get these narratives like this crisis actor stage event narrative. This whole thing created this major censorship movement, right? To where we have to watch what we say on YouTube now, and we can't actually put out anything because so much disinformation got blasted through and came down to where people were actually getting harassed in real life. That's how they were able to pull off things with the QAnon BS that got set up a lot of their narratives, right? So they feed this narrative of nut jobs and tinfoil back to these people who will never escape this narrative right here. Meanwhile, this is all information-based mind control. So I'm sure you can relate to that, right? Information-based mind control is basically what the cycle of abuse, the third veil, is actually going on. And you'll recognize a lot of these too, right? Institutionalized psychiatry, social engineering, MK Ultra legacy. That's the legacy of MK Ultra experiments, right? Human trafficking, GMO foods, fluoridated water. These are all abuses to the human beings, right? All these are abuses to human beings. And what they do is they create a level of corruption within people and a level of trauma within people, right? And that keeps the crime going. That keeps the discontent going. That keeps the manufactured division going, right? And so you have this battle between people who are ignorant of how the world works and people who are stubbornly bought into this other narrative that the way the world works. And they never come to any logical conclusions, as Yuri taught us when we learned about ideological subversion. This mechanism, this third veil, has the idea that you abuse the young, you break the future, right? And you abuse them through all these mechanisms, right? That you get them on these drugs, you get them on, you break their identities, right? You strip their identities, you get them questioning who they are and what they're about. Some of them don't even make it out, right? They don't even make it to the world. And so there's all these different systems set up to deal with the crime and deal with the repercussions of this abuse, right? And it's actually spawned this whole epidemic on display of narcissism in our society. It's breaking down families, the nuclear families, and breaking down relationships. This cycle of abuse powers this cycle of control, right? Because we cannot come together to realize what's going on. We're all fighting about what the truth of reality is between one set of disinformation and another set of disinformation. We have to see through the veils in order to understand that we've been being abused the entire time and come together as one to break this, to manufacture dysfunction in our world, right? To upset their maintenance of power. This elitist mindset of these global ownership class is where we're at today. We're talking about the fourth veil tonight. We're talking about the cycle of control. We're talking about the Great Reset, the Build Back Better plan. I could probably reword these a little bit. We're talking about UN Agenda 21-2030, like we did last week. We're talking about the UN, the WEF, the Bilderberg groups. We're talking about these people right here who sit atop the mountain, right, and control reality through generational corruption. So just to catch you up, that's what we do. And what we're heading towards and what we're building here is this fifth veil, behind the fifth veil, because they're not seeing us coming. The fifth veil is meant to tear down these walls, right? And we call it solution culture. And solution culture is about changing the education to stop the subversive enablement, right? To remove the enablement from these systems and these people through a generational approach, right? And that's to redo our education, to teach the youngest generation the ways to think and the ways to avoid their mechanisms that put them into these traps, to put them into these buckets. We pull them out of the schools. We teach them the real history, right? We teach them the trivium so that they understand logic, reason, and strategy. We Socratic method as well. I should move this closer, right? We have real role model leadership, not these bozos that are in charge right here that are making all the decisions for us. We put real role model leadership in there. Families, family leaders, people who know how to maintain a life and relationships that aren't damaged by drugs and other things that are messing with their lives, right? We try to get information back to information freedom again, right? We want freedom. We don't want censorship. We want to get unbiased, true, fact-based media platforms, right? We want to take back our parental rights. And the things that are blocked out are ones that we've covered on the channel already. So you can find this through my content. It's already out there. And we'll be covering more of these things, like the philosophy of liberty, to teach people the philosophy of liberty, to teach children about how media works in their minds. So, we're going to be covering some of that this weekend on Old School Watch Party Sunday, right? To live by the philosophies that we know, that empathy can change the world, to lead with love, empathy, and respect, right? To make sure that we have clean, real food, water, and educate that, and make sure that we have activism to get that control over what we put in our bodies back, right? What you need to know about the first two veils is this. The establishment never lets a crisis go to waste. Neither do conspiracy grifters. However, they both produce mind control victims equally. And that's where a lot of our dysfunction comes in. So where we're at today is, and we've been doing this for a while now, we've worked our way through these veils, right? And we've hit all these points at different times. But right now, tonight, we're talking about this right here. So when it comes to what we're doing, we're kind of like my audience, my crowd here, they have a really good grasp on how things work. And they've been here for the ride. So listen to them and ask questions. But we're going to go ahead and get on with the presentation there and get back to this point what we're talking about. But I wanted to catch you up and just give you kind of an idea of what we're about here and what we do and what the work I've been putting in. And feel free to jump back and look at any of the old previous episodes. And you'll probably see what I'm talking about. All right, let me pull this up. Here we go. Insects. Insect food.
Insects. Well, I'm going to read this to you from their website just a year ago, February 2022. 5 reasons why eating insects could reduce climate change. Not private jets. Not private jets. Even Mario's laughing. Insects could reduce climate change. Number 1, edible insects can produce equivalent amounts of quality protein when compared to animals. How awesome is that? Insects require less care and upkeep than livestock. Number 3, we're actually running out of protein. Number 4, insects are part of virtuous eco-cycle. Why don't you be virtuous and eat more insects? And number 5, you can start small and work your way up. It's just,
like ants.
Why would you not want to eat insects? Isn't this normal? Doesn't it get you emotional thinking about how much they care about us? Who cares about you as much as they do? Who else makes you eat insects to live a healthier life? Eco. Who else makes you do that? Noble people at World Economic Forum. Look, I got to tell you, I like talking to everybody, and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm telling you, I would love to talk to Klaus Schwab sincerely. I would love to fly out to Geneva to sit down and talk to this guy wherever he lives. I'd love to go to his place and have a conversation with him. Klaus, this doesn't make any sense. There is no selling the dream. Everything is force, must, you better, all of this. That's just not the American way. And I feel you don't like the American way because the American way allows for us to choose, free to choose. If somebody wants to eat insects, go for it. Put mayonnaise on it, put mustard, hot sauce, whatever you want to do. But you can't say and fool American people saying eating insects is good for you. So if you're watching this saying, I don't know, man, I've heard a lot about World Economic Forum. I'm just verifying everything you're saying, Pat. This kind of stuff is adding up. It's kind of weird. Insects, cashless society, carbon tax, social credit score. Do you want to have a social credit score on how you voted, on how you eat? You got like your FICA allows you to get a loan to buy a house. Now imagine your social credit score. Which way you going to vote? Hey, do you notice how you want to know? No, we can't give you this. I want more insects. Nope, you voted this way. We're not going to give you. Do you want to have fewer insects? Can you imagine like how crazy it is to think about? Like they dictate what you get based on your social credit score. So solution. Today, I was talking to Russell Brand on his podcast, and he was asking about all this stuff that's going on with, corporate elites and these capitalists that are doing what they're doing. There's a very big difference between capitalists that are running their small businesses and growing and creating jobs. These guys controlled by a World Economic Forum are controlling you. So what can you do about it? Number one, be aware, talk about it. Discuss it with your congressman, discuss with your family, publicize it, do your own research, educate everybody around you, and choose what companies you do business with. The way you get to vote in capitalism, which is awesome, is if you don't like what some company does, go support another one that supports the values that you're okay with. That's how you get to vote when it comes down to capitalism. That's why some companies go out of business who refuse to listen to who? The customer. Who's the customer? You. You have the power. We have the power on how we vote with these businesses by the way we spend our money. Okay, so if you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If it got you thinking, share it with other people. But I got another video I want you to watch. If you've never seen.
That was our introduction. There you go. So we have the background on all this, and I had to take a little bit of sidetrack there, but that's okay. But we're gonna go ahead and get kind of going on the next one. So what I want you to do now is we're going to talk about, I'm going to introduce a new presenter here tonight. This guy's really cool. His channel is called Coin Bureau, but his name is Guy. I don't know his last name, but it's this guy. He's a guy. But man, he's got some great videos, man. I've really enjoyed watching his stuff, and he's very smart. And so what do you do when you need to we need to explain something? You go out and find an Englishman who can speak very nicely. But this guy has some great stuff. So we're gonna watch a couple of videos by him, who really has done his homework on WEF and Davos and the Great Reset and so on. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. See, we're an hour in, so yeah, we need to go ahead and jump straight in. Yeah, so and I agree, the customer has the power, right? But it's also like, how do we fight against companies that own so much of everything, right? It's hard to get away from a lot of this stuff. I like the free market approach, and I believe in it, of voting with your dollars. Like when it came to organic food, right? I've been voting with my dollars for organic food for a long time, and the prices have come down, right? And so like a lot of other people have too, and that's helped bring the prices down to reasonable levels where other people can now start to get involved. And a lot of people here are starting to eat more organic food, especially after we watched Seeds of Death and the fluoride deception about a month ago, maybe, back on Old School Watch Party Sundays. Yeah, so a lot of people were like, I really do have to pay attention to what I'm putting in my body, and there is a lot of deception going on about what kind of things are out there. You can eat a lot of things and get away with it, but it's like the long-term effects of it. It's a slow poison, right? We have to be aware of, when they don't give a crap, they don't care about what happens to you, right? They're making money off of it somehow, or they're, getting something out of it on their end, a higher profit margin. They don't care what the long-term health effects are on people. And a lot of times they don't even do the due diligence on it. So that's just one area where we vote with our dollars and make a difference. Sometimes it gets a little bit harder, right? So we have to look for alternatives. Maybe it is not a lot of choices in certain areas, but we have to kind of like find ways to hopefully more and more people will put out better choices for us. So that's part of the culture war, right? That's part of the thing that like other people were trying to work on today. They're trying to give us better choices to where to put our dollars at, and they can, through capitalism, they can profit and become put out more better quality products with people who don't hate you, as Ricada says. Spend your money with people who don't hate you, and hopefully this is the beginning of more of that, right? So Thomas, I know Thomas is out there. Thomas has a lot of brilliant ideas. He's working on things that he wants to see the world. He was inventing for the world, right? So hopefully one day he gets a chance to do that. You know, sometimes we have to go along with what is just there in order to get to the place where we have better choices. You know, unfortunately, that happens sometimes, but we're moving in a better direction. So, but the important thing is to know who's after us and what they're trying to do, right? So let's move on to our next video of the evening. Listen to Guy here from Coin Bureau, and it says, "Watch out! This is what the UEF is planning and how to resist it." So here's some more advice on how to resist it and exactly what they're planning right now. I believe this one kind of rolls down the Great Reset, right? And then we're going to go to the next one, which goes down to what they're doing presently and what they're trying to do by 2030.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. This famous quote by Winston Churchill has been used in many contexts, and the first context was the creation of the United Nations at the end of World War II. Now, this quote has also been thrown around quite a few times since the start of the pandemic, and nowhere has it been more apparent than in the context of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. Today, I'm going to explain exactly what the Great Reset is, tell you how to resist it, and which cryptocurrencies could benefit.
Yeah, this dude's about crypto, but his research and stuff is good, and the crypto advice is pretty cool too. But we don't have to like necessarily. There's a little bit of an ad in here. I'll skip past it, but he doesn't talk about crypto too much, so it's a good listen.
Okay, let's start with a quick fact check. The Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory. According to Wikipedia, the Great Reset is a, quote, economic recovery plan for the post-pandemic world put together by the World Economic Forum, or WEF. And this plan is based on a 2020 book, which is of course titled The Great Reset. For those unfamiliar, the WEF is a Swiss organization made up of some of the most powerful individuals and institutions in the world, including current and former presidents, media moguls, big tech CEOs, asset managers, banks, and non-governmental organizations. As per the WEF's own website, the organization's explicit purpose is to, quote, shape global, regional, and industry agendas. And the WEF does this by supporting individuals and institutions that promote its agenda. The WEF is headed by the one and only Klaus Schwab, a German engineer, economist, and former professor who has served as its chairman since it was founded in 1971. Naturally, almost all the WEF's agendas are based on Klaus's ideas. This includes the Great Reset, as it was Klaus who co-authored the book, The Great Reset, along with another lifelong academic and economist named Thierry Melleret. Just a few days after the book was published, the WEF hosted a virtual event about what the Great Reset will look like, which featured Klaus, Thierry, and a couple of other WEF insiders. So, for starters, Klaus & Co. consider the pandemic to be on a par with another world war as far as its global disruption goes, and this presents an opportunity to replace capitalism with stakeholder capitalism. As you might have guessed, stakeholder capitalism is another one of Klaus's ideas, and the short of it is that it replaces shareholders with so-called stakeholders, who basically decide what everyone does. If you're wondering who the stakeholders are, Klaus has made it clear in many interviews and at many events that the stakeholders are the individuals and institutions who are a part of the WEF. In crypto terms, you can think of stakeholder capitalism as being the total centralization of control in the hands of the world's most powerful people, corporations, and organizations. According to Klaus, there are 3 phases to the Great Reset, and the first 2 relate to the pandemic. These are restrain, i.e. fight the virus, which is the phase we're currently in, and recover, which is the next phase where the world enters the, quote, new normal. That's another phrase you've doubtless been hearing a lot these days, and what's interesting is that the term new normal seems to have been coined by Chinese President Xi Jinping during his 2017 speech at the World Economic Forum's Davos meeting. Probably nothing. Now, the third and final phase is the Great Reset itself, which focuses on the following 5 points: redefining the social contract, decarbonizing the economy, digitizing everything, implementing stakeholder capitalism, and making sure those first 4 tenets find their way into every country. As to how exactly.
So, like, does anybody remember what the social contract is? I don't remember signing a contract. I mean, yeah. What social contract are they redefining, and whose is it? Who wrote it? I don't know.
Exactly the WEF will roll out the Great Reset around the world, Klaus explicitly states that this will be achieved primarily with the help of the WEF's network of so-called global shapers and the WEF's network of so-called young global leaders, who will all push for the Great Reset in their respective nations. And, of course, the WEF hopes to have all its ducks in a row by 2030, which is a date we've been seeing mentioned a lot these days.
So you see how they roll it out, right? They roll it out through sovereignty, right? So the individual leaders are just pushing this agenda into the law, right? They're pushing it into the law. So without them having to strike a gavel and say this is the way it is, they just send people in to do it into individual countries, and then they groom the future. They groom the future leaders. They'll get into that here in a minute.
Total coincidence, I assure you. Now, believe it or not, but this is just the tip of the iceberg of all the insane stuff that was said at that virtual event, and I'll leave a link to the video in the description so you can hear it straight from the horses' mouths. The more you watch these folks, the more you'll realize that no conspiracy theories are required, because they'll often tell you exactly what they want and how they plan on getting it if you just take the time to listen.
Bingo.
Nowhere is this truer than at the World Economic Forum's aforementioned Davos meetings, and you can find out what was said about cryptocurrency at this year's meeting using the link in the description. So, now that we know what the Great Reset is and how the WEF elites plan on rolling it out, we can prepare for its 5 points, which you'll recall are redefining the social contract, decarbonizing the economy, digitizing everything, implementing stakeholder capitalism, and doing all of the above in every country. Now, I'll start by saying that there seems to be quite a bit of overlap between these 5 points, and it sounds like they're going to be implemented simultaneously, not in sequential order. It's also important to remember that these points are slowly being implemented as you watch this video. This means you need to keep in mind how a change in one could affect the other 4 when preparing to avoid or resist them. Note that this could become difficult to do, since part of the WEF's agenda involves distorting traditional definitions of things like inflation, well-being, and economic growth.
Control of language, right? Controlling the language, redefining words, and also, using doublespeak.
This distortion of definitions lies at the core of redefining the social contract, as this involves replacing all of the above with ESG-focused metrics that will prioritize, say, diversity and inclusion over actual productivity. If you watched our video about ESG, you'll know that it has its roots in an initiative spearheaded by the United Nations and some of the world's largest corporations, and that as time goes on, ESG criteria are becoming more aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. Now, there are 17 SGDs in total, and I'll give you a couple of examples of what the WEF wants to see from a few of them, as per comments made by WEF insiders at that Great Reset virtual event I touched on earlier. So, the 4th SDG is quality education, and Great Reset co-author Thierry Malloret mentioned that the WEF doesn't like that, say, a science degree from one university is considered to be more prestigious than a science degree from another university. As such, the WEF would like to see all degrees eliminated and replaced with specific skills training that would last until the end of your life. In other words, you're going to be in school until you die and you'll never even get a degree. Never mind the WEF indoctrination you're likely to endure. Now, the switch to skills training also not so subtly implies that there will be no more small businesses or entrepreneurs, just mega corporations where everyone is a worker bee. Now, this sounds ridiculous until you realize that it relates to the 10th SDG, which is reduced inequality. Here, the WEF is willing to do just about whatever it takes to ensure that economic inequalities do not continue to increase. This includes making sure that you'll own nothing and be happy, like the WEF's infamous Twitter video said. Instead, you'll rent what you use from the stakeholders who will own everything. Recall that these stakeholders are all the folks at the WEF. Now, as history has shown, attempts at making everyone equal tend to end very badly, as making everyone equal usually translates to making everyone, bar a select few, equally poor and miserable, and the select few people in power are subsequently forced to kill anyone who tries to reject that poverty and misery.
As Thomas Sowell points out
Ironically
clearly,
enough, the WEF's...
And by the way, just in, Henry Kissinger dies at 100 years old today. Henry Kissinger is now passed on. Do with that what you will. Breaking news.
push for eliminating inequality comes from the fears its constituents have about the riots, revolutions, and migrations that will inevitably occur if inequality continues to increase. This has been admitted by a few WEF members on stage, including at that Great Reset virtual event. Now, luckily, there's an easy way to resist this redefining of social contracts, and that's to reject any ESG or SDG-related criteria, especially when it's being used to redefine, say, what a recession means. Instead, stick to tried and true social contracts and reinforce them with your friends, family, and community. Better yet, invest your time, money, and energy in individuals and institutions who vocally oppose ESG, SDG, and other top-down diktats coming from technocrats who are out of touch with what life is like for the average person. Pro tip: stay away from any companies that force you to pay a subscription service to use a physical product that should be entirely in your ownership the moment you purchase it. Your future might just depend on it. Speaking of your future, the second point of focus for the Great Reset is decarbonizing the economy. And here's where things get a bit complicated and a bit contentious. That's because many would argue that moving away from fossil fuels is a good thing, including me. However, there is a right way and a wrong way to transition to more renewable energy sources. So, telling farmers to stop using fertilizer during a food crisis or shutting down nuclear plants during an energy shortage is not how you decarbonize the economy. It's how you destroy the economy. It's also important to remember that many environmental elites see the average person as a form of carbon that should be reduced, if not eliminated, which is why they're eager to implement lifestyles and diets that are objectively unhealthy, such as living in the metaverse 24/7 and eating bugs. Now, another problem with the WEF's green energy agenda is that the energy structures it envisions will result in the hyper-centralization of the electricity grid, and that's probably by design. That's because if everything is running on electricity, it becomes pretty easy to control, well, everything. Another thing that's probably by design is the focus on wind and solar, and that's because not every country has the ability or resources to create its own wind farms or solar panels. This forces them to trade with other countries for energy, which promotes the globalized world the WEF wants to see. Fun fact, the largest manufacturer of solar panels is China. Food for thought. Now, as with the redefining of social contracts, there's an easy way to resist the WEF's warped decarbonization doctrine, and that's to advocate for renewable energy solutions that actually make sense and educate your friends, family, and community about the risks of decarbonizing too quickly. Better yet, try and become as energy independent as you can by acquiring things like solar panels and power generators and learning how to build good gasifiers.
See, I've always said that. I know people who have done this, like who went with like oil. I mean, cooking oil for their cars and stuff. It seems like more of a pain in the ass. But like putting solar panels on your house to like help, like, you know, help you with your own energy costs individually is where I think they actually serve the best purpose. Right? There's a lot of good purposes for solar. I don't think that you ever really get away from fossil fuels. I don't. But when you think about who controls I say fossil fuels? I hate using that term. the traditional fuels. How about that? We'll say that. But when you when you think about just getting away from them altogether, like who wants to give up their awesome cars? No way, man. Yeah, I don't think you can quite get away from all of them. I mean, oil goes into so many things that we make that it almost seems impossible to get away from. But then you think about who controls the oil, right? Maybe in that line of thinking, getting further away from it's a good idea because it kind of breaks down that power base, that petro base, right? I'm not in favor of throwing everything out the window and just going with these quote unquote, sustainable energies or really just other alternative energy sources. I don't think that's working either. I think there's a happy medium somewhere in there that we need to investigate. And I think he's probably what this guy's talking about more so. Um, being good stewards of the earth is different from being like radical green Nazis, And I think that there's a happy medium, but we have to get to a place where we're not corrupted in order to have these conversations. And that's my point, is that we can't get anything done until we get rid of the corruption that's in our world, right? And that's what we're working on here. It's like learning how to remove the enablement that keeps this perpetual corruption going. And in my experience and my philosophy is that we have to get rid of the corruption first. We have to solve that problem before we can do anything else. Like a lot of people have good ideas about government and how things things should go and what ideology should work and how we should run the world and all that stuff, right? But nobody ever talks about, well, how do you do that when you're living in something so corrupt, right? Something that's so generationally corrupted from at the core. How do you ever expect anything to work when you have a world that's like that? That's where the root cause issue is. And that's what we have to focus our solutions on right now, right? Down the road, generations down the road, when we have this corruption problem, this epidemic of narcissism inside of our society, this elitist mindset that poisons from the top down. How do we once we get that under control, then we can have the space and the integrity and the honesty to actually start working on some of these bigger issues. But until now, you're always going to have this group of elitists with control over so much in this world, dictating and manipulating and using information and language against us. That are going to try to gum up every possible thing we try to roll out. Right? It has to be a full-on root cause solution implementation before we can actually start to think about. And I've tried to work this out in my head. Like how can we do all these great things when there's still this giant blanket of corruption going on? When there's still so much corruption and abuse going on in our society. I can't see a way around it. I can't see a way where we just say, okay, everything's really bad, but then we're going to do something and everything's going to be good. We actually have to generationally start to work this corruption and this abuse out of our system. And then we will have a fighting chance to actually have the world that we want. And anything short of that is just us kind of spinning our wheels and them going, ha ha ha, watch how fast we can just turn this off or turn that off or break that apart, because we don't have the unity we need. We don't have the control over our language we need. We don't have the control over our systems that we need to actually get things done. That's just the point where I've come to with this after trying to look into it deeply to say, where do the solutions come from, right? How can we actually get to the points where we have people with integrity talking about good ideas, right? Right now, we have to really attack the root cause issue. And so these are all great ideas that he has, but without addressing the corruption and the system, the generational abuse that's going on, I think that it's a shot in the dark.
Last bit will come in handy when they start making it more and more difficult for the average person to buy petrol and petrol-powered cars. Pro tip, consider getting your hands on the same kind of car that's used by emergency services like the police in your area. Chances are they won't be switching to electric anytime soon, and the commonality of the car means it will be cheap and easy to fix for the foreseeable future. And if you're wondering, no, Bitcoin will not be banned because of its energy use or carbon emissions. That's because even the WEF knows that the energy and carbon emissions associated with crypto mining are a fraction of a percentage of the global total. They're just upset that they can't control BTC like other cryptos, which is why ESG-obsessed asset managers are pushing for green energy disclosures from crypto miners and investing in publicly traded crypto mining companies. It's their attempt at taking control, and it will fail. Now, if you want the facts about Bitcoin's energy use and carbon emissions, you can check out our video about CoinShares' crypto mining report using the link in the description. Now, Bitcoin actually relates to the third focus of the Great Reset, and that's the digitization of everything. And I mean everything. If you watched our video about the Bank for International Settlements' vision of the future of the financial system, you'll know that it wants essentially every asset in existence to be tokenized on a permissioned blockchain that's run by the government and the central bank. To clarify, yes, the Bank for International Settlements, or BIS, is heavily involved with the WEF, and many of its members are so-called agenda contributors, meaning they're directly involved with the WEF's Great Reset plans. As I noted in that aforementioned video, the tokenization of all real-world assets in such a manner means the government and central bank could turn off your ownership of anything at any given time for whatever reason it sees fit, including your identity. Then again, you're apparently going to own nothing, so... Now, as far as digitization goes, the elephant in the room is the digitization of money, specifically the development of a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, which is something that just about every central bank is planning on rolling out, courtesy of the BIS. Now, if you watched our video about cryptocurrency versus CBDCs, you'll know that the two couldn't be any more different. While cryptocurrencies are built from the ground up to maximize freedom, CBDCs are built from the ground up to maximize control. Where, when, and how you spend, even how much you save. If you watched our video about the WEF's massive crypto report, however, you'll know that a few crypto projects seem to have sided with the WEF as well, and that the WEF sees the appeal of a so-called synthetic CBDC, which involves using a centralized stablecoin like Circle's USDC as a de facto CBDC. For what it's worth, it's unlikely that centralized stablecoin issuers like Circle will force KYC on wallets holding USDC anytime soon, as CEO Jeremy Allaire has made it clear that the company wants to make its stablecoin as cash-like as possible. This makes sense given that USDC does in fact seem to be becoming a de facto digital dollar, and it's in the interest of the United States that this digital currency finds its way into as many digital wallets as possible. This can only be done by relaxing KYC and AML. In any case, there's just one missing piece of the CBDC puzzle, and that's a dystopian digital identity. This is a prerequisite for the rollout of a CBDC, since you need to be able to identify individuals. And let's just say that governments have been working hard on proof of concepts for digital IDs during the pandemic. A digital ID is also a prerequisite for widespread internet censorship, which the WEF apparently wants to implement with the help of artificial intelligence. I suppose that's not surprising, given that information about the WEF and its affiliates is spreading like wildfire these days. To be blunt, resisting the WEF's digitization is going to be extremely difficult, and of the 5 focuses of the Great Reset, it's by far the most important pillar. That's because if you control the flow of information and the flow of money, you truly control everything. Case in point, Klaus explicitly stated in that Great Reset virtual event that they need digital infrastructure such as digital identity, facial recognition, human tracking, etc., to enforce ESG criteria and all the upcoming social contracts the WEF priests are cooking up in the organization's ivory tower. That means that it is imperative that you reject any form of digital identity that is not completely decentralized from top to bottom. And if you don't know what that means, I'll leave a link in the description for you. It also means that you need to get your hands on some form of currency that cannot be easily tracked, censored, or confiscated by a centralized authority. This includes cash, precious metals, and select cryptocurrencies. I seriously cannot stress how important this is, because CBDCs are coming. However, I must caution that cryptocurrencies with publicly viewable blockchains like BTC may not be ideal, as these transactions will be easily tracked. That's why a privacy coin like XMR might be a better option, but it'll really depend on what the unique circumstances you're dealing with are. Finally, familiarize yourself with decentralized video platforms like
Yeah, but the one thing you kind of run into with that right there is like who takes it, right? So eventually you end up translating your XMR, say, to back to a Bitcoin or back to a dollar, right? That's how you have to end up spending it. You have to spend it as it is accepted. And so until there's mass adoption of like an XMR as a legitimate currency, it's hard to get away from the whole trap. Even with Bitcoin, you end up translating that back into dollars, right? Um, I've had numerous types of crypto in my life, and in the end, when I needed to use them, I had to had to turn them back into dollars. So there's no real getting away with them. You can like keep your money there, right? And as they increase in value, you get gains off that, which is nice. But inevitably, unless they're accepted down the street at the Kroger or wherever you shop, or the gas station you go to, you still have to you still have to turn this back into dollars. Like I have a Bitcoin card, right? I'm not a Bitcoin, a Coinbase card, right? So you can literally spend my crypto through the Coinbase card, but they're doing the transaction for me. They're doing they're converting it for me on the back end, and of course there's a fee with that. So it's still in the works, man. He could be onto something. I think people are onto something here, but without mass adoption, you're still playing kind of the same game. It's just about where you keep your money kind of secured, right? In a sense, like and it's great for like if you put in $100 or $500 or whatever, and Bitcoin goes up, you're making money. That's great. Then you can turn around and spend that and transfer it back to dollars and spend it. But that's the kind of the ins and outs of the crypto game right now. So it's in its infancy. It's still growing. We'll see how it turns out.
Odyssey, learn how to use decentralized live streaming platforms like Theta, and start uploading information you think is at risk of censorship to decentralized storage solutions like Arweave. These cryptos will be extremely important. Make no mistake, the freedom of information and the freedom of money are the ultimate deterrents to the Great Reset. That's because the truth eventually overcomes indoctrination, no matter how many times it's labeled disinformation or misinformation. And overcoming this depends on the ability to financially support the individuals and institutions speaking and propagating these truths. Pro tip: keep physical copies of all your most important records, such as land deeds, home ownership documents, passports, driver's licenses, crypto wallet seeds, and the like, even if they're expired. They will help preserve your identity if you're unpersoned for opposing the WEF's ever-expanding agendas. And if you think that compliance will save you, recent events have shown that it will only make things worse for you and everyone else in the end. The only winners in this system will be stakeholders at the WEF, which ties into the fourth factor of the Great Reset, and that's the introduction of stakeholder capitalism. Now, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how the WEF will introduce stakeholder capitalism, mainly because it's not entirely clear how the stakeholder capitalism governance structure works. The WEF has over 4,000 individual members and has hundreds of institutional partners, 100 of which are labeled as strategic, i.e., important. How they all come to a consensus is anyone's guess. Even if we assume it's just the 100 strategic partners calling the shots, it's hard to imagine that they're all on the same page about every issue. In fact, I remember watching one of Klaus's speeches from one of the WEF's events earlier in the pandemic, and it sounded like he was desperate to keep the interests of these so-called stakeholders aligned. Now, you'd think the real stakeholders are governments, but Great Reset co-author Thierry Malloret admitted at that virtual event that the private sector effectively controls the public sector through lobbying. If you watched our video about the enemies of cryptocurrency, you'll know that Wall Street is one of the biggest lobbyists out there. This means that the real stakeholders are the big banks, asset managers, and the central banks, as they ultimately determine how money moves in the economy. On paper, central banks are supposed to be apolitical, meaning they don't espouse any particular ideology. In practice, this isn't always the case, and in places like Europe, the central bank has been explicit about supporting the same agendas as the WEF. As for the big banks, they seem to be on the same page as the asset managers, which makes sense given that most of them are on the same street, Wall Street. The biggest names on this block are BlackRock and Bank of America, both of which have been explicit in their intentions to direct capital to anyone or anything that's bowing at the altar of ESG, and removing capital from anyone or anything that offends their sensibilities, regardless of ESG status, such as Tesla. This relates to how stakeholder capitalism can be fought, and that's to exacerbate the differences in interests between the different stakeholders at the WEF wherever possible. To be frank, this is probably not something most of us can do, as we probably don't have the ear of, say, the Central Bank of Bulgaria. In any case, it's important to point out that centralized power is inherently unstable. That's because as more power gathers in one place, the more profit someone stands to gain if they stab the other participants in the back, especially if it earns them the support of the people. Now, call me crazy, but I think elite figures like Elon Musk fall into this category. It's not so much that he's some benevolent fellow, it's that he's run the numbers and realized that he stands to gain much more by siding with the crowd. Besides, he's already richer than all the other elite figures, so he's won their hierarchical game. Now, as stupid as it sounds, supporting breakaway figures like Elon might be our best bet at encouraging more of them to defect from the WEF and ruin its stakeholder capitalism. I imagine there's more than a few stakeholders who are sick of being hated by the public and can't stand Klaus and his clown company, and who would love to get the same sort of fanfare as the Doge Father. Pro tip, tell Elon I sent you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth, man. You figure that these egomaniacs are infighting and trying to circle for power and notoriety and likability all inside of their own little game, right? It's not all like complete loyalty and easygoing inside of their little game. Like they have power struggles too. They fight with each other too. They will stab each other in the back. So setting them against each other is a good strategy.
So this brings me to the final factor of the Great Reset, and that's the export of the WEF's endgame to every single corner of the Earth. As I mentioned earlier, Klaus explicitly stated during that virtual conference that the WEF will leverage its network of global shapers and young global leaders to ensure the Great Reset is implemented in every country. Klaus also specified that there are over 10,000 of these usurpers slowly slipping into various positions of power around the world.
You hear that? That's the game. That's how they're going to do it. That's how they're generationally going to keep this going. It ain't just a matter of getting rid of the ones that are at the top, like Kissinger's off the list today, but Biden and the others, right? You got to worry about these guys, right? They're the ones you don't know, the ones that are coming up. So you have to learn the rhetoric. You learn the rhetoric. You learn the initiatives, the things they're going to push for. And when you hear them, you call them out. You look them up, and he's going to tell you right here. It's very easy to kind of find these people.
And he repeatedly stated that the Great Reset's success depends on this. This makes sense because there's only so much the WEF can achieve from the top down. The pandemic proved this for reasons I won't get into here, but the TLDR is that Klaus and his cult followers saw the pandemic response as a, quote, test of the Great Reset philosophy. Well, this top-down test didn't go nearly as well as the WEF had hoped, which seems to be why the WEF has been leaning so heavily on those global shapers and young global leaders as of late. It's an inorganic, bottom-up approach that pushes the WEF's agenda in major social and economic hubs, and it's no coincidence that most of them seem to have been onboarded during the pandemic. Now, what's awesome is that the global shapers and young global leaders' websites are searchable. The former lets you see which WEF folks are looking to change things in your city, and the latter lets you see which WEF folks are looking to change things in your country or region. If you see that a global shaper or young global leader is running for public office, vote for a different candidate who represents your views but isn't aligned with the WEF.
And let everybody know.
All it takes to double check is a quick search on the WEF's website, the Global Shapers website, and the Global Leaders website. Funnily enough, someone I know was blocked by the WEF on Twitter for commenting on just 2 posts saying to vote against its young global leaders. Note that the WEF gets lots of hate on Twitter every day and doesn't block everyone. This leads me to believe that subverting the WEF's subverters is the organization's Achilles heel, and I suppose we're going to find out once the word gets out.
There you go. See, think about that. Actually offering a solution to break this thing up going down the road, right? Generationally, not letting them succeed with this grooming program they have going on, where they dump a bunch of money at people that they can subvert and get to go out there and subvert others. This is how the system is regenerating itself, right? How when Quas is gone, his dream will still be out there trying to be born, right? So we can stop people at this level right here, right? We can stop the whole damn thing. So keep in mind what he said about that search and inspire others, show others, how to do that. And when you go to vote, we'll look up some of these people, man. We can go to this website and type in names and type in areas, and we can look up any of these people and see who they are and stop them in their tracks. See, it's about the reputation at that point. We had the power of the people, we had the power of the crowd, we have the power of the internet and our reach to actually affect their ability to be effective, to actually impact their ability to be effective. This is key. I like this part about the video very much. This is the way you think strategically and get things done in a long-term manner, long-term solutions.
Klaus admitted at the end of that virtual event that they might not succeed. So let's ensure they don't. Remember that we only have until 2030. So make the next 8 years count through your selective spending, full attention, directed energy, and informed voting. That's really all you need to do to defeat the WEF at the end of the day. All the other stuff is just to be extra safe if things go south. Once the WEF has been defeated, the next order of business will be to create robust, decentralized autonomous organizations to replace institutions like the WEF and its affiliates to prevent this degree of centralized power from ever happening again, so that the average person can finally live in peace. That and fixing the money, which has arguably been the driver of this centralization since the dawn of time. You can learn more about the power of crypto governance using the link in the description. That's all for today's video about how to resist the Great Reset. If you feel it's important, share it with someone you think will feel the same way. If you found it helpful, smash that like.
I did. And I hit the like button too. So yeah, that's our first introduction to that, right? So I think this guy does a great job of breaking things down. I like the way, you don't have to agree with anybody 1,000% to collaborate with them, to appreciate the things that you guys that they do, right? But I think he has a great approach to things, and I think that he presents the solutions. He presents the implementation of solutions and preventative measures, which is two great things about actually solution culture, right? Like you want to be able to present solutions and preventative measures. That's also like long-term solutioning, as in not letting it happen again, right? Or counteracting them before they get to the part where they're going to re-implement, right? They're going to re-strategize. No, you put something in the way to block them. That's what they do to us, right? So you have to kind of understand they've shown us the way in a sense. But they just do it on the dark side. We did do it for the light, right? So, okay. So we've been, we're coming up on 2 hours here. We're going to I want to do part 2 next week. We're gonna save the next video for part 2. So we didn't get to the WEF Davos 2023, everything the elites are planning video, which is about a 40-minute watch. So about a 50-minute watch. So we won't do that tonight. But we'll unless you guys want to keep going for another hour. If you guys are into it, man, you're hip, you want to keep going, just let me know. I can go another hour. But this is edutainment tonight, right? It's I appreciate, and I always say, hey, look, we got to take a little bit of time out of our week to address issues, and then we can have plenty of time for entertainment on the weekends and just chilling and having fun and laughing and enjoy each other's company. But we also need to come together and put our heads together and learn together, right? So that we can actually start to break down the things that keep us divided and keep us from coming to solutions, after decades of being in this battle, to finally be on the track of doing something rather than just reacting to something, right? Rather than just being in the awareness mindset, but being in the solution mindset, right? To move beyond awareness through the research into consideration and decision is where we are today here in this crowd right here and Winning Reality, because we are unrigging the game by calling it out and then talking about solutions that'll allow us to be winning reality, right? All of us will be winning reality together. The idea, it's just an idea, good idea, one you should subscribe to and come and be part of the live streams for. Because we do have a great crowd here, and if you're watching on the rewatch, please consider coming to some of the live streams and being part of it. We have a good time here. We have a lot of great conversation in the chat tonight, and I just want to take some time to talk about some of the great comments that were going on. A lot of great interactions, man. Some very smart people in the house, some very motivated people in the house. Making it all happen. So what did you guys think? Reality is a race that we can all hit the finish line together. That's right. You see, they're controlling reality right now. We need to take it. We need to be winning it from them, right? That's the whole idea. But we're starting to get there. We're starting to get there. And they're not infallible, right? They have weaknesses. They have things that can cause them to fail at these plans. But right now, it seems like so overwhelming, right? It seems like they have such a head start on us. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But through more and more people getting involved and understanding the true nature of what's going on and not getting caught up in the rabbit holes and not getting sidetracked and not getting caught up in the division, right? It's going, instead of moving towards division or just, shutting out the other side, it's like we need to move them into the solution mindset, right? How do we do that? It's going to take people. It's going to take all of us putting our ideas together and our energies together to get that done, right? And the real trick to that is really, I think, generationally, right? Starting with the youngest generation, like they do, moving them out of the corruption, giving them the tools to fight back. And a lot of us are doing that already. And even if you don't have kids yet, you can be part of that solution too. Just a matter of where do you fit into the puzzle, right? It's asking yourself, where do I fit into the puzzle? What can I do best? How can I best put my energies into it? It could be just participating, right? Just coming here and participating and getting involved and talking about what's on your mind, or asking questions and learning more. And that'll inspire, and that'll bring out whatever it is that you can add to, right? Some people have, it may be in the idea, and maybe in the realm of food and nutrition, right? Maybe in the realm of mental health, like talking trash and truths, right? Or inventions and bright ideas for better technologies like Thomas, or just there's so many different avenues you can go to. It sounds like Alexander's working on information. He sounds like he's got something going on that end. I'm just getting to know him, but sounds like he's got something going on, right? So it's where your contribution lies, and that you're taking the time and you're doing a little bit of something to dedicate your time to being part of the solution. And then there's plenty of times for us all to gather and commune together and have a good time and get laughs in. Like I have my show on Saturday nights. It's really I'm trying to get the weekends to be more laid back. We do the watch party stuff on Sunday. Yes, we hit some serious topics, but then we have a nice movie we watch together now. So I'm trying to think of ways to implement more of the levity and more of the fun in the channel, because honestly, that's the kind of person I am. Yeah, I'm serious when it comes to this stuff, because I'm serious about not letting some bunch of weirdos win, not being pushed around by a bunch of bullies, man, and not letting the narcissists wreck the scene and wreck everybody's good times, man. I'm about the good times for all. And so more of that, more stuff to come in the new year. I'll be working on that along with I'm going to start working on some merch. Maybe I'll have something out before Christmas. Hey, Mimsy, how you doing? You've been listening the whole time? Awesome. Hope you've enjoyed it. Happy to have you here. Yeah, I hope you learned a lot. Like, this is some stuff that you don't get to really learn about. You hear about it, right? But then you can do the deep dives, and it's cool to get together with a bunch of people and just do the deep dives. That right there is doing a ton for the world. You don't even, we don't even realize it while we're doing it. But now each one of you can go out and talk better about these topics and be more educated on it and be more aware of it. And when you go out into the real world, the 3D world, you'll hear these terminologies, you'll see these people, you'll know more about them, and yet the person you talk to may be the person that makes a difference in the future. You just never know. That's the way immersion works, man. It's an amazing thing. Jacob says, at Winning Reality, and don't forget doing your part can be as big as what Thomas works on, as little as what I do. Being careful about my language and not letting the commies influence my words. Absolutely. Yeah, Jacob's big on the control of language part of it. You know, I get to know my crowd. I get to know what everybody's good at, and I get to know what they're interested in and where they add so much to. And Jacob, we're going to be talking about more control of language as time goes on, and you'll have plenty to say about that. I know. And you know, the whole doublespeak thing. I got this great documentary. What documentary? It's a short video on doublespeak, but man, it hits the point so well. And with so much doublespeak going on around the day, we really need to readdress that topic. If I didn't have so much information right now on this, what we're doing, I would cut to that real quick. But I think probably in 2 weeks we'll do double speak, and we'll do a couple other control of language topics. So, like I said, the open conspiracy series is not supposed to be linear. We're allowed to jump off into different topics and come back to it. But this one is a two-parter. So next week we're going to go over the Davos 2023, what they just have been doing, what's going to be coming in 2024. So they go to 2023 and they plan out for 2024. And then we'll make sure we stay on top of the Davos events too as we continue to roll forward. We'll see what they talk about 2024, because they go to these things. They say, well, they give a status update, right? And they say, well, what's working, what's not working, what can we do different this year to help get this thing through. We're talking about smart cities. I got a couple other videos for this guy. We're going to be hanging out with Guy here a lot because he's got some good videos. I'm going to look for more, but he's got some great content that I just think that everybody needs to listen to. So we're going to do some more watch alongs with him. I got about, let's see, three or four more new videos about that he's put out from him. So he's going to be a contributor here for a minute on this open conspiracy series. And next week we're going to talk about Davos 2023, and also who controls the world. You won't believe this, but we kind of already know, don't we? But how they do it, like who is the one calling the shots for all these people? Is it Davos? You think about it after tonight, but really it's still somebody else above them that is more in control of things, and they've been there the whole time, staring us in the face. It's kind of like who I thought it was the whole time, but I just didn't understand how it operated and the intricacies of that group and the intricacies of how that group is kind of at odds with itself too. So there's these, by learning about the groups, we learn about their weaknesses and actually their fallibilities, right? So where they can be broken apart, right, if you will, where we can actually make an impact on this group of really weird people that just want to control everybody and just think they know what's best for everybody, and that are really just wrecking the place, right? Really just wrecking the place. See, I saw something up here I wanted to address real quick. Where's that? Let's see. See, I do what I can do. I do what I can with what I have, be it history, news, UFOlogy, paranoia, conspiracy, and beyond. I create content for many things. Okay, cool, awesome. I did a whole 10 episode series on this show right here, going down the alien UFO rabbit hole, debunking a lot of things through that. And you might be interested in that. See, maybe Talking Trash and Truth can grab that link for the one with Shizzy and Caitlin and I. We did the whole walkthrough, like how it begins, how they kind of bring people into that idea, where they kind of lay the foundation, and where you end up in the end of it. And I think you'll find it very interesting. Is that it? I think that's the one. Right on. Yeah, and make sure you subscribe to Talking Trash and Truth. She has a great little morning show, and a lot of people that are here tonight go over to hers, and that's more about dealing with trauma and walking through. So if you have any of that in your life or have something to add, that's a great place to go for that. It's very interesting. It's about self-help. We really are both self-help channels in a way. You know, mine's more about like breaking mind control, breaking the system that causes the mind control, right? And and uh and kind of like, you know, giving people the skills and whatnot to kind of like teach the next generation how to avoid it completely, like I've been working on with my family. When in reality, to think like a global elitist, you must view the world as they do. A video game, a sim city. Did you care about the peeps before you built the freeway? Same thing. Yeah, absolutely. You got to be a little bit Machiavellian, and you got to kind of like, yeah, I call it elitism, is the mind virus, right? All isms are elitisms. They're kind of just agenda driven elitism. So like racism, I call that elitism with an agenda, right? Sexism, elitism with an agenda, because it's a vein of superiority. The elitists believe that that everybody's beneath them. They don't care about your sex, your color, your lifestyle, anything. Everybody's there to be used, right? Like you said, you build the freeway over them. Good point. Good point. T-Rex truck in. Everyone has traumas, just some are worse than others. So he says as he drives his truck down the highway, delivering goods and services, like goods to places so that our supply chain stays intact. Yes, he is a hero indeed. Well, I'll be back tomorrow night with Repairing History Together. That's my show that addresses racism and the state of the relationships here in the U.S. and the world between the different colors, the different people, man. And we really break down. We've really broken down that with the teachings of Thomas Sowell, right? So I had this early series called Repairing History, and then now it's Repairing History Together. I had a co-host. We parted ways, but I continue the fight, and now we're Repairing History Together. That's the crowd and me, and we're gonna have more tomorrow night. We're gonna talk about, is post-traumatic slavery syndrome a real thing? Now, last time on Repairing History Together, we addressed white privilege, and we completely debunked the hell out of that. So probably some more of that going on tomorrow night. It's gonna be a good show. We're going to address some topics. Of course, I'm going to have videos from Role Model Leadership to review. It's real role model leadership, that is, that address the issue. We'll try to find some stuff by Thomas Sowell to address it as well. We're going to talk about this, and it's just another excuse. I think it is, but we'll talk about that tomorrow night. And this Saturday night, it's going to be me in the crowd. I don't have a guest lined up at this point, but that can always change if something comes up and somebody pops in and goes like, oh yeah, I'm free. I do have a couple of guests coming up in the future that I'm working on, so that may roll into the new year. But yeah, some people you guys know and that are really cool, they're friends of mine. Hopefully they'll come by, and I'll keep working on more guests for the show as well. Of course, you know that we're adding more and more to that show, so that's a fun time. It's Winning Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night, and of course 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Sundays for Old School Watch Party Sundays. This week, Consuming Kids, the marketing and commercialization of childhood, and also PCU, the movie. That's Politically Correct University. If you haven't seen that, it is hilarious. It's so good. So we have some comedy and some truth coming out, and that'll be a great Sunday with me and talking trash and truths. Hey Lex, how you doing? Another great show. Been listening, trying to get some work done. Hey everybody. Hey man, I'm happy to be the guy you're listening to while you're getting work done. That's, for me, that's been Max Muir lately. If you haven't checked out Max Muir's content, good friend, great friend, love the guy. He's got a channel. He's trying to get that channel going, and I'm really enjoying his stories. I put that on and do my work. So I've been listening to Max Muir stories while I've been working lately, and I did leave a link to his channel in the Discord. So if you're in the Discord, you can just jump on that link and over there and give him a subscribe, and lots of thumbs ups over there for his new videos so they get out, because I love Max and he tells a great story. It's all about Japan. It's really cool stuff. But that's it, guys. I'm gonna get on out of here. I'd like to thank everybody for being here on the Rumble side, over out on X, and the Rewatch crew. You guys rock the house. I certainly appreciate you guys being here. I'll be back next week, same time, with more on this Open Conspiracy series. We're going to talk about Davos 2023, and we're going to talk about who controls the world. Man, it's going to be a great night, so I can't wait to see you. And until next time, y'all keep on winning.